So when that's down nearly close, we'll grab a half round file and I'm just going to just run round there. Nice and close to the line, keeping the work pretty well supported up close to where we're filing. And we must be getting somewhere near pretty close. So look, it just wants a little bit more in a couple of spots. Very easy to take too much out and discover that you've got a nasty gap around here. If you discover you've got a 10th-hour gap and you can see daylight through it in places, you're probably going to find it's not the end of the world, because the brass tube that fits over here butts up against it and that'll hide some of it. But that's getting close, it nearly fits on there. I'm just going to mark where it needs a little bit more and keep going. This is fun. I enjoy filing once you get into it. It's very easy to say, oh, I really can't be bothered doing that. I'd much rather go and sit and watch TV. And the reality is probably you should if you've got that mindset. But once you get started on a job like this, it doesn't take a lot to get it right. Rather than lift that traction engine up all the time, I'm just going to use another piece of tube that I've got here. And that's pretty sweet, except that it's not quite cleaned up here in one corner. I think we've got a flat spot, and that's probably all it's going to take. Yeah, but look, that's probably not too bad. That goes through there. Still touching somewhere. And this fits on here like this. Somewhere here. And the other one goes on the back. So, next job really is to fold these up and give them a clean up. So I'm first to admit that bending sheet metal is really my weakness, and I have a pan brake with movable fingers, all those sort of things. This is too close to the edge really to bend anything in that. You can tidy them up afterwards. I haven't done that with this one yet. But you can't really bend this close to the edge with it. So I've just done these in the vise. I've just held this in the vise and I've bent it over and I've tapped it across with a piece of brass bar so that it bends down nice. Next job is to bend the other one. So really we need a piece of brass bar that fits in there nicely that we can use as a jaw to bend it around. If you've got a pair of vice grips with a set of long jaws, that's probably the best tool for this sort of work. But I don't, so I'm going to go over there in the dark in the torchlight again. I've got a jury-rigged light and it's not really good for filming. And I'm going to try and bend these other two up. Sheet metal work isn't my strong point, so I think we'll do alright. And they'll tidy up. We can sort of give them a tap and clean them up and get somewhere near. So in the end I caved and I cut a piece of stock. This is about all I had. I did have a pretty good look around. I wanted a bit of steel, something a bit cheaper than this. But I only had to cut 5mm off the end of it. It was an offcut. And I set this up in the vise and just bent them over. So that's what we've got. That one and that one. They're even somewhere near the right size or the same size, which I'm really pleased about. If we line them up here, that hole's probably somewhere near in the centre of the big one. They're marked up a bit and I'm not real happy about that, but a coat of heat-proof paint on these won't hurt, and probably they're going to get a file up too and a clean up first, just to take all the dents and things off them. So I went back with my trusty brass hammer and knocked most of the dents out of here. There's still got a few marks in there, but I think with another hour maybe on that, these will polish out if I wanted to do that. I'm thinking this is probably going to look nice with the contrast black, and that's probably what I'm going to do, is paint them black, because they will turn blue as they get hot. So black might be a bit more longer lasting. Anyway, we've got two plates. This one goes on the back and this one goes on the front. And this one fits that way around nicely. Actually that way around nicely. And that's a pretty good fit. This one goes on here with a nut. And we're starting to see how that looks. This wrapper goes around here. It's got a double fold at the bottom and it goes right round. It's got a row of vent holes through the top, or through the side and through the top, and another hole for this piece here. And this tube that fits on here holds it all together. It's also got a hole through here for the axle. So we're starting to look like a little traction engine. Pretty pleased about that. Next bit is to make a wrapper. So next job really is to mark out this piece of tin. This goes around the wrapper, and if we have a look at what we've got here already, we've got this piece on here with the cutout for the bush, and we've got this one that bolts on the back. Now there's a strip of metal that's 96mm by 284 that goes between those two plates, so if we move that up there as far as it'll go, that should nicely fit between there and there. If it doesn't, we might have to put a washer on the back. That's not a big deal. This however has to bend and fit in between or in behind this fold, so that's a bit critical. The other thing, it's got to have a hole to fit this bush, and we may have got this bush the right distance from the end. There's every chance that we never. So the first thing to do, I guess, would be to check and make sure that this will go in here, and put a washer on it if it doesn't, and then measure this distance here and make sure that we get a hole that's right. But you've got a few millimeters play around this hole, so we're going to be somewhere near. This folds up or folds up this way, and there's two holes here for the axle that go through here, and there's 4 nice vent holes that go here on each side, and there's 8 vent holes in the top, or 6 vent holes in the top, and 2 holes to mount the engine. So they're 4mm. Good idea not to get them mixed up and drill these out too big, or we'll need another piece of tin. This is stainless steel, so that's going to be really nice. I've just marked this from each end, so it's the same on each end. They're 9mm, 9mm, and then this one up here. There's a measurement here on the drawing to check at 63mm. So I've remarked these so that we do get a slightly narrower bend across the top. But apart from that, this all should work. That's why we've got a double line there. We'll bend on the inside. This one here needs to be 16mm, and we're just going to punch that in nice and neat and trim. And when I built the last engine, I made this, which is a doming tool or a beveling tool to make the nice dished holes along the side of the smoke box. And it was used to make these, no sharp corners, which I think are quite smart. So we're going to do the same again, and there is instructions in the, this is quite professional. There are instructions in the book in the teacher notes on page 54 for making one of those. It's this simple punching tool can be turned on the lathe and is used to give an interesting dished appearance to the edge of the air holes. But just little touches like that are what make this a really nice model. So anyway, next job is to drill a lot of holes. We've got all these at 10. This one's at 6 for the axle, or 1/4 inch for the axle material, and this one each side. This one here we're going to punch out to 16mm or so, about that. These two are 4mm to mount the engine, and the rest are all 10mm. I'm going to spend some time at the drill press now and get in a drill then without too many interruptions so I don't get them mixed up. I'm putting most of these holes in with this step drill, or Unibit, I think it's probably the trade name, but it's a step drill. And this is good in sheet metal because it cuts really nice round holes. An ordinary drill bit won't. So if you've got one, I've drilled them all to the first step from this side. We've got the holes there for the vent holes and the axle holes, and then we've got the vent holes here, and we've got the engine bolt down holes, and we've got a hole here for the bush, and the other axle hole and the 4 vent holes. So the problem with this is that it leaves a bit of a burr on this side, and you can clean it up, and I've carefully cleaned these up, which is the engine hole down side holes, and they're to size, so a 4mm bolt will be just nice in them, or 532 or whatever you're going to find. These I'm going to continue drilling from the other side, which is the face side, carefully. These ones here only go out to the next step, which is 1/4 inch on this. There and then, that's going to be plenty good enough for axle holes. And then these go to the one after, which is basically is 10mm or 3/8. So I'm going to finish them, but that's what you get to end up with there, and that's why I'm going to run them in from one step from each side, and then we should not get too much of this burr on the other side of the sheet. So there we go. That's all the holes, the vent holes, 6 in the top and 4 at each end. The hole for the bush, which goes there, and the axle holes, which are nice fitting on there. And the 2 holes here that the little engine bolts on. So there we go, that's pretty neat. This is the top side that we're going to basically use as the cover on the outside. So it's got to be bent this way, and these ones here will be first, and then these bends each end, and then we'll bend these ones in the middle. But before we do that, we want to dish all these holes nicely. And even though it's supposed to sit in the vise, what you're going to find is that it's just going to slip through, because this is stainless steel and it takes a little bit of banging to put that nice raised look on the inside there, and the dish on the outside. So Just hold that. Nice and secure, and hit him until it